Kang Hyun stood in the center of the massive chamber, feeling very small. The walls stretched up so high he could barely see the ceiling. Around him, creatures from 23 different worlds sat in floating chairs, looking down at him like he was some kind of bug they had found in their food. The biggest alien, a thing that looked like a giant purple lizard with too many arms, spoke in a voice that made the floor shake. This was Vorthak, the High Chancellor of the Galactic Council. His words came through the translation device in Hyun's ear. "Human," Vorthak said, making the word sound dirty. "You and your pathetic species have caused enough trouble. We have decided your fate." Hyun kept his face calm, but his heart was beating fast. Next to him, Lee Nari sat perfectly still. She was Earth's top military expert, and right now she was the only other human in this room full of aliens who clearly hated them. "The Galactic Council has spoken," Vorthak continued. "Your species is too violent, too dangerous. You fight wars over everything. You destroy your own planet. You cannot be trusted with weapons or space travel." Other aliens nodded their heads, or whatever they used for heads. Some looked like giant insects. Others were just floating balls of light. One looked almost human except for the blue skin and 4 eyes. They all agreed on one thing. Humans were bad news. Therefore, Vorthak's voice got louder. "We give you this final choice. Surrender all your weapons, give up your spaceships. Let us take control of your planet for your own protection. We will keep you safe like children." Hyun almost laughed. Safe like children. These aliens wanted to make humans into pets. "If you refuse," Vorthak continued, "we will destroy every major city on Earth. Your species will join the Kepler colony in extinction. You have 72 standard hours to decide." The mention of Kepler colony made Nari's jaw tighten. Everyone knew what happened there. The Council had found a human colony on a distant planet. The colonists had refused to give up their independence. Now that world was just a ball of glass and ash. An alien that looked like a walking tree spoke up. "High Chancellor, perhaps we should explain why this is necessary. The humans might understand better." Vorthak's purple scales seemed to glow brighter. "Very well. Humans, in the past 50 years, your species has fought over 300 wars. You have built enough nuclear weapons to destroy your own planet 12 times over. You pollute your environment and fight over resources like animals." Another alien, this one covered in what looked like silver fur, added, "When we first found your radio signals, we thought you might be civilized. But listening to your broadcasts, watching your behavior, you are clearly not ready for galactic society. Your technology is primitive," said a floating ball of green light. "Your fastest ships would take centuries to reach the nearest star. Your weapons are crude chemical explosives. You are like children playing with fire." Hyun wanted to speak, but he knew he had to wait. This was all planned. Let them talk. Let them show how much they looked down on humanity. "We have seen this pattern before," Vorthak said. "Young species that are too aggressive always destroy themselves or threaten others. The Galactic Council exists to prevent such chaos. We maintain order across 1,000,000 worlds." The blue-skinned alien with 4 eyes leaned forward. "Your species shows all the signs of a galactic threat. Aggression, rapid technological development, resistance to authority. We cannot allow you to spread beyond your solar system." "But we are not unreasonable," Vorthak said, almost sounding kind. "We offer you protection, safety, peace. Under our guidance, humanity can survive. You will be given comfortable lives on your planet. Your needs will be met. You will never have to worry about war or conflict again." Hyun almost smiled at that. Never worry about conflict again. Because they would have no choice in anything. "Some of you will even be allowed to serve the Council," the tree-like alien added. "Your species has shown some useful traits. You are good workers when properly directed. Some humans could have meaningful roles in our society." "As slaves," Hyun thought. "They want to make us slaves." "The vote has been taken," Vorthak announced. "All 23 species of the Council agree. Humanity must be contained or eliminated. There is no other choice." The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to Hyun. Behind those eyes he could see curiosity, disgust, pity, and in some cases, something that might have been hunger. Some of these aliens clearly wanted to see Earth burn. Hyun stood up slowly. His back hurt from sitting in the alien chair for hours. Nari stood beside him, her hand resting casually near the small device on her belt. Not a weapon, the aliens had made sure of that. But something else. Something important. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Hyun began, his voice carrying clearly in the huge chamber. I want to thank you for your clarity in this matter. Several aliens shifted in their floating chairs. They had expected begging, maybe tears. Humans were supposed to be emotional creatures. You have made your position very clear, Hyun continued. You see humanity as a threat that must be controlled or destroyed. You believe we are primitive, violent, and dangerous. These are not beliefs, Vorthak interrupted. These are facts. Your own history proves it. Hyun nodded. Yes, our history is full of war and conflict. We have made many mistakes. We have fought each other and hurt our planet. Some aliens looked pleased. The human was admitting the truth, but, Hyun said, his voice getting stronger, there are things about humanity that you might not understand, things that do not show up in your surveillance reports or radio intercepts. Now the aliens looked less sure. What was this human talking about? You see us as primitive because our public technology seems simple compared to yours. You think we are weak because we fight among ourselves. You believe we will surrender because we have no choice. Nari pressed something on her belt device. Across the galaxy, on a frozen research station in Antarctica, Park Jinwoo received a signal. It was time. The people of Earth have considered your generous offer, Hyun said. And now there was something in his voice that made several aliens lean forward. We have discussed your terms carefully with our leaders, our scientists, and our military commanders. The chamber was completely quiet now. Even the floating lights seemed to dim as they waited for his answer. And our response is this, Hyun said, meeting Vorthak's giant purple eyes without flinching. We thank the Galactic Council for showing us exactly who we are dealing with, for making your intentions perfectly clear, for giving us the gift of absolute certainty about what you really want. He paused, letting his words sink in. You will have our complete response within your 72-hour deadline. Every human on Earth will know about this conversation. They will understand exactly what choice you have given us. Vorthak's scales darkened. Human, you seem to misunderstand your situation. You have no leverage, no bargaining position. Your planet is surrounded by our fleet. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships. Hyun smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a pleasant smile. High Chancellor, with all due respect, I think there might be a few things about humanity that your intelligence reports missed. Small things. Details that might not seem important to a galactic civilization. What could you possibly know that we do not? The silver-furred alien demanded. Well, Hyun said, still smiling that cold smile. For one thing, you might want to check on how many humans are currently working on council worlds, in your research stations, your manufacturing facilities, your communication networks. The aliens looked confused. So what if some humans worked for them? You might also want to review the passenger manifests of all civilian transport ships that have visited council space in the past 3 years. Cultural exchange programs can be very educational. Now some of the aliens were starting to look worried. But, most importantly, Hyun said, you might want to ask yourselves this question. If humanity is as primitive and helpless as you believe, why aren't we begging for mercy right now? The chamber erupted in alien voices, all talking at once. But Hyun was already walking toward the exit with Nari right behind him. Their message was delivered. As the doors closed behind them, Nari finally spoke. Think they bought it? Hyun checked his watch. 69 hours to go. They will, he said. Right about the time they start finding our surprises. 3 years earlier, Kim Do-yeon was having a very bad day. As the director of Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Network, he spent most of his time looking at empty space and filing reports about how empty it was. But today, the space was not empty. Sir, his assistant called from across the control room. You need to see this. Doyen walked over to the main display screen. What he saw made his coffee cup slip from his hand. Dozens of bright dots were moving at the edge of the solar system. Big dots. Ship-sized dots. How long have they been there? Doyen asked. We first detected them 6 hours ago. But sir, based on their trajectory and speed, they've been watching us for much longer. Maybe months. Doyen felt cold. Earth had been preparing for first contact for decades, but they always assumed they would see the aliens coming. They never thought the aliens might already be here, hidden and watching. Get me the president, Doyen said, and wake up everyone in the contact protocols department. We have a problem. But the real problem was happening in a small apartment in Seoul, where Choi Min-ho was trying to forget his past. 5 years ago, he had been one of North Korea's top nuclear scientists. Then he escaped to South Korea and tried to start a new life. He thought his days of building weapons were over. He was wrong. The knock on his door came at 3 a.m. 2 men in dark suits stood in the hallway. They looked tired but determined. Dr. Choi Min-ho? The taller one asked. I don't use that title anymore, Min-ho said. I'm just a college professor now. Sir, we need to talk. It's about your work on quantum fusion reactions. Min-ho started to close the door. I don't do weapons research anymore. I told everyone that when I defected. Sir, the shorter man said, aliens are watching Earth. We think they might not be friendly. Your country needs you. Min-ho stopped trying to close the door. Aliens? Yes, sir. Real ones. With ships. And we think they've been studying us for a long time. 20 minutes later, Min-ho was in the back of a black car, speeding through the empty streets of Seoul. In his hand was a tablet showing satellite images of the alien ships. His first thought was not about the aliens themselves, but about their technology. These ships, he said to the agents, they're using some kind of energy field to stay hidden. But our satellites caught them when they adjusted their position. Is that good or bad? The tall agent asked. It means they don't know everything about our technology. They think our detection systems are weaker than they actually are. The car pulled into an underground garage beneath a building Min-ho had never seen before. Inside, he found a room full of people he recognized from scientific journals and news reports. Earth's best minds, all brought together in the middle of the night. At the front of the room stood Yoon Ji-won, the physicist everyone said was crazy. Her theories about folding space and time had been rejected by every major university. But right now she was drawing equations on a whiteboard that made Min-ho's head spin. The problem is simple, Ji-won was saying. If these aliens have been watching us, they know about our public technology. Our rockets, our nuclear weapons, our satellites. They probably think they know everything about our capabilities. Don't they? Asked someone from the back of the room. Ji-won smiled. Only if we've been showing them everything, which we haven't. She turned to a new section of the whiteboard. For the past 10 years, I've been working on dimensional folding theory. Everyone said it was impossible, but impossible things become possible when you're desperate enough. Min-ho leaned forward. The equations looked familiar, but different. Like someone had taken everything he knew about physics and twisted it into new shapes. What are you saying? He asked. I'm saying we can build weapons these aliens have never seen before. Technology that doesn't exist in their databases. Things that will surprise them. A man Min-ho didn't recognize stood up. Dr. Yoon, with respect, we're talking about aliens who can travel between stars. What could we possibly build that would surprise them? Something they would never expect from a primitive species, Ji-won said. Something quiet. Something hidden. Something that looks like something else entirely. She turned to the next whiteboard. They're watching our military bases, our rocket launches, our weapons tests, but they're not watching our research stations in Antarctica. They're not monitoring our deep ocean laboratories, and they're definitely not paying attention to our quantum communication experiments. The room was very quiet now. Everyone was beginning to understand. We're going to build a shadow arsenal, Ji-won continued. Weapons and tools that don't look like weapons and tools. Technology that hides inside technology they already know about. Shin Tae-hyun raised his hand. He was the head of Korea's quantum research program. You're talking about quantum entanglement networks, instant communication across any distance. Exactly. While they're monitoring our radio signals and internet traffic, we'll be talking to each other through quantum channels they can't detect or understand. Han Soo-jin, the materials scientist, was studying the equations on the board. And this compression technology, you're talking about making big things very small. Big, destructive things, Ji-won confirmed. Things that could fit in a briefcase but have the power of a nuclear bomb. Things that could be hidden anywhere, carried by anyone, activated remotely. The room was starting to buzz with excitement and fear. What Ji-won was proposing was incredible, but also terrifying. How long do we have? Minho asked. Unknown, said the government official who had been silent until now. The aliens haven't made contact yet, but their ships are getting closer, and their scanning patterns suggest they're studying our defenses. Then we work fast, Ji-won said. We have facilities all over the world that the aliens don't know about. Research stations that look like weather monitoring posts, laboratories that look like mining operations. We use them all. Over the following months, the most secret project in human history began. While the world watched the skies and prepared for first contact, hundreds of scientists worked in hidden facilities around the globe. Minho found himself in an ice cave in Antarctica, working with equipment that officially didn't exist. The facility was listed as a climate research station, but the real work happened 300 feet below the ice. He was building fusion reactors the size of coffee cups, each one capable of powering a small city or creating a very large explosion. Meanwhile, Bae Kyung-soo was installing quantum communication devices in places no one would ever think to look. Sewage treatment plants, subway tunnels, the foundations of office buildings, a network that could instantly connect every major city on Earth, invisible to alien detection. Han Soo-jin was working on the compression technology, finding ways to pack incredible amounts of destructive power into packages smaller than a cell phone. Her workshop was hidden inside a fake food processing plant. To anyone watching from orbit, it just looked like humans making more food. The hardest part was keeping it secret from everyone, including most of Earth's governments. Only a few dozen people knew the full scope of the project. Everyone else thought they were working on separate research projects. The aliens will expect us to unite in the face of an external threat, Ji-won explained during one of their encrypted video conferences. They'll be watching for signs of global military cooperation, so we don't give them any. We keep working like nothing has changed. But what if they attack before we're ready? Minho asked from his Antarctic lab. Then we make sure we're ready, before they attack. The work continued in secret for 3 years. Scientists who had never spoken to each other before collaborated through quantum channels. Weapons that looked like everyday objects were manufactured in facilities that looked like civilian factories. And all the while the aliens watched and waited, studying humanity's primitive technology and obvious weaknesses. They saw the nuclear missiles that couldn't reach orbit reliably. They monitored the radio communications that anyone could intercept. They analyzed the chemical rockets that barely had enough power to reach the moon. What they didn't see was the quantum network spreading like a spider's web across the planet. They didn't notice the small devices being hidden in every major city. They didn't detect the fusion reactors that could power weapons beyond their imagination. By the time the aliens finally made official contact, humanity was ready. Not with the weapons the aliens expected, but with weapons they had never seen before. Weapons that had been hidden in plain sight for 3 years. The aliens thought they were dealing with a primitive species armed with crude rockets and simple bombs. They were about to discover that humans were very good at hiding their true capabilities, and they were even better at keeping secrets. The Galactic Council reconvened exactly 72 hours after their ultimatum. Vortak expected to see a broken human begging for mercy. Instead, Kang Hyun walked into the chamber looking calm and confident. Behind him came Lim Hanyul, a woman the aliens had never seen before. "Human," Vortak began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Have you come to surrender your weapons and accept our protection?" Hyun smiled. "High Chancellor, we have indeed prepared our response, but first, I'd like to introduce Dr. Lim Hanul, Earth's leading expert on xenobiology. The aliens looked confused. What did alien biology have to do with surrender? Hanul stepped forward and activated a small device. Suddenly, holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber. The aliens gasped as they saw detailed biological scans of themselves, their internal organs, their genetic codes, their exact physiological weaknesses. How is this possible? Demanded the silver-furred alien from Ketra Prime. This information is classified at the highest levels. Is it? Hanul asked innocently. Because according to our files, Ketrans have a severe allergic reaction to a simple Earth protein called gluten. Just a few milligrams in your air supply would cause fatal respiratory failure. The Ketran alien fell back in his floating chair, his fur standing on end. Hanul continued, turning to the tree-like creature from Verdania. And Verdanians, despite your plant-like appearance, are actually more similar to Earth fungi. You're vulnerable to the same antifungal compounds we use to treat athlete's foot. This is impossible, Vorthak roared. Our medical data is stored in the most secure systems in the galaxy. Apparently not secure enough, Hian said. You see, for the past 3 years, humans have been working throughout council space. Janitors, in your research facilities, maintenance workers on your space stations, food service employees in your government buildings. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. How had they missed this? Oh, we were very careful, Hanul added. We never took anything obvious, just tiny biological samples. Hair from your grooming facilities, saliva traces from your drinking containers, dead skin cells from your furniture. She activated another display. We also collected tissue samples from your waste disposal systems. You'd be amazed what you can learn about alien biology from garbage analysis. The blue-skinned Zephyrian representative stood up angrily. You disgusting primitives! You've been spying on us like vermin. Vermin? Hian repeated. That's an interesting choice of words, because vermin are very good at getting into places where they're not wanted. They're excellent at hiding, and they're surprisingly hard to get rid of once they've moved in. From Earth's command center, Oh Seungwan was watching the broadcast with satisfaction. He had been the one to organize the infiltration program. For 3 years, he had placed human agents in positions throughout council space. It hadn't been difficult. The aliens were so convinced of their superiority that they barely noticed the humans working around them. Janitors were invisible. Food servers were ignored. Maintenance workers might as well have been machines, but these humans had been carefully chosen. Each one was a trained scientist, engineer, or intelligence specialist. While they cleaned floors and served meals, they were also studying alien technology, mapping security systems, and collecting biological samples. The cultural exchange programs were particularly helpful, Hyun continued. The council was so proud to show off their advanced civilization to primitive humans. They gave us tours of everything. On Human appeared on the main display screen, speaking from Earth's Quantum Command Center. We learned so much during those visits. The layout of your government buildings, the location of your power grids, the frequency signatures of your communication networks. She smiled at the camera. We were especially interested in your quantum communication relays, such beautiful technology. We were honored that you let us examine them so closely. The aliens were beginning to understand that something was very wrong. You couldn't possibly understand our quantum systems, protested the floating energy being from Luxaria. Your species lacks the mathematical concepts. Do we? Human asked. She activated a control, and suddenly every alien communication device in the chamber started playing human music. Not just any music, Earth's national anthems all playing at the same time. The aliens frantically tried to turn off their devices, but nothing worked. The music kept playing. Your quantum networks are indeed impressive, Human said over the noise. But they have one weakness. They assume that only advanced species can access them. They don't have protections against primitive intrusion methods. The music finally stopped, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. 3 years ago, Hyun explained, you started watching Earth, but Earth started watching you back. While you were studying our primitive technology, we were studying your advanced technology. While you were analyzing our weaknesses, we were cataloging yours. John Minseo stepped forward. She was Earth's expert on alien psychology and culture. We learned a lot about how you think, your social structures, your political systems, your fears. She gestured to the Vextari High Chancellor. Vorthak, your species values strength above all else. You maintain power by appearing invincible. But what happens when your people learn that primitive humans have been walking through your most secure facilities for 3 years? Vorthak's purple scales were turning a darker color, a sign of stress that Minseo had learned from stolen medical files. And the Catrans, she continued. Your society is based on rigid hierarchy and absolute obedience to authority. But several Catran colonies have been secretly communicating with human agents. They're tired of council rule. The silver-furred, Ketran was now trembling. That's treason. Is it? Or is it just the natural desire for freedom that every intelligent species feels? Minseo activated her own display. The Verdanians have 3 separate resistance movements that you don't know about. The Zephyrians have a growing independence party on their homeworld. Even the Luxarians have dissidents who think the council has too much power. We've been talking to all of them, Hian added, sharing ideas, discussing possibilities, building relationships. The aliens looked at each other with growing suspicion. How many of their own people were working with the humans? This is all very interesting, Vorthak said, trying to regain control of the situation. But it changes nothing. You may have learned some of our secrets, but we still have the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Your planet is still surrounded. About that fleet, Human said from Earth. She activated another display showing the positions of every council ship around Earth. Beautiful vessels, such elegant design, we've been admiring them for days. Admiring them? Asked a confused alien voice. Oh yes, and studying them. Learning about their shield frequencies, their engine signatures, their communication protocols. It's amazing what you can discover when you have quantum access to someone's computer networks. The display changed, now showing detailed technical specifications for every ship in the council fleet. Engine layouts, weapon systems, crew quarters, everything. How did you get this information? Vorthak demanded. The same way we got everything else, Hian said. We asked nicely. Well, actually, we didn't ask at all. We just took it. Nam Ji-hoon appeared on screen from Earth's military command center. Your ships are impressive, but they have a design flaw. They assume that enemy attacks will come from other advanced ships. They're not built to defend against small primitive threats. He smiled coldly. Like the maintenance pods that service your fleet, or the supply shuttles that bring food and equipment, or the waste disposal units that remove garbage. The aliens were starting to panic now. How many human agents were on their ships? We've been very busy these past 3 years, Hian said. While you were watching our public face, we were infiltrating your private spaces. While you were studying our obvious weaknesses, we were discovering your hidden ones. But the most important thing we learned, Hanul added, is that you're not as united as you pretend to be. Half of your member species joined the council because they were conquered. The other half stay because they're afraid to leave. She activated a final display showing communication logs between various alien worlds. Messages of doubt, fear, and growing resentment toward council rule. What would happen if all these dissatisfied species learned that humans had already infiltrated council space? That your security is not as good as you claim? That resistance is possible? Vorthak was no longer purple. His scales had turned almost black with rage and fear. You insignificant insects, do you think your primitive tricks matter? We will still destroy your world. Will you? Hian asked calmly. Because I think you're starting to realize something important. This isn't just about Earth anymore. This is about the future of your entire galactic order. If you attack Earth now, every oppressed species in the galaxy will know that humans fought back. They'll know that we found your weaknesses and exploited them. They'll know that the Great Galactic Council can be beaten by clever vermin. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. So here's our real response to your ultimatum, Hian said, his voice carrying clearly through the massive space. Earth rejects your offer of protection. The panic in the council chamber was beautiful to watch. Nam Jihoon had spent 3 years planning for this moment, and now he was seeing his work pay off. From his command center on Earth, he could see the aliens scrambling to understand what they were really facing. "High Chancellor," he said, his voice broadcasting to every council world simultaneously. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. You seem to think that biological samples and computer access were the extent of our preparations." Vorthak was trying to maintain control, but his purple scales were now completely black. "What are you saying, human?" "I'm saying that while your people were giving us tours of your facilities, we were doing more than just looking around. We were making some modifications." Nam activated a display showing the interior of a Vextari power plant. "This is your main energy facility on the homeworld. Notice anything different?" The aliens stared at the image. Everything looked normal. The massive fusion reactors, the control systems, the safety protocols. But then one of the Vextari technicians pointed at something near the core. "That device," he whispered. "That wasn't there before." "Very observant," Nam said. "That's a quantum conversion device, about the size of a lunchbox, but with some very interesting capabilities. When activated, it turns matter into energy very efficiently." The technician's face went pale. "You're talking about a matter bomb in our power plant." "Not just your power plant," Nam corrected. "Every major power facility, communication hub, and government building on every council world. We've been very thorough." Song Mirai appeared on screen from a mobile command unit. Behind her, through the window, alien ships could be seen in the distance, but she didn't look worried. "The cultural exchange program was really wonderful," she said cheerfully. "Your people were so eager to show off your technology. They gave us access to everything. Power plants, space stations, orbital platforms, even your precious council chambers." She held up a device that looked like a simple tablet computer. "This is a quantum detonator. With one button press, I can activate any conversion device in the galaxy, or all of them at once." The aliens were no longer angry. They were terrified. "You're bluffing," Vorthak said, but his voice was shaking. "You couldn't possibly have placed devices everywhere." "Couldn't we?" asked Ryu Sungho, appearing on screen from another location. "Let me show you something interesting." The main display changed to show a real-time view of the Ketran homeworld, specifically the capital city where millions of aliens lived and worked. "This is your central government complex," Ryu said. 5 years of construction, the most secure building on your planet. Now watch this." A small explosion occurred in the building's courtyard. Not big enough to hurt anyone, but bright enough to be seen from orbit. The aliens watching gasped. "That was just a firecracker," Ryu explained. "A demonstration device we left behind after our last visit, but it proves that we can activate anything, anywhere, anytime." "Now imagine," said Song Mirai, "what happens when instead of a firecracker, it's a device that can turn your planet's core into plasma." The chamber was completely silent now. Every alien was calculating how many humans had visited their worlds, how many facilities they might have accessed, how many devices might be hidden in their most important locations. But Ryu wasn't finished. "The really beautiful part of this plan is that you helped us do it. Every time you wanted to show off your superior technology, you gave us access to places we could never have reached otherwise. You were so proud of your security systems," added Nam Jihoon. "But security systems are designed to keep out armies and fleets. They're not designed to stop a single human with a briefcase full of cleaning supplies." Go Yeon-soo appeared on screen. She was speaking from what looked like a space station, but the design was unlike anything the aliens had seen before. "My name is Go Yeon-soo," she said, "and I represent the Galactic Liberation Front. You might not have heard of us because until today we didn't exist." The aliens looked confused. "Another human organization? For the past year, I've been traveling to every world under council control. Not the member species, the conquered ones, the colonies, the protectorates, the guided civilizations that never asked for your guidance." She smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. "Turns out a lot of species don't like being told how to run their planets. They're tired of sending resources to council worlds. They're sick of having their decisions made for them by aliens who've never set foot on their worlds. The display changed to show dozens of different alien species, all broadcasting from their own worlds. The Altarians, Yonsu continued, have been planning rebellion for 50 years. They just needed weapons and coordination. A blue-skinned alien appeared on screen, speaking in accented but clear galactic standard. The Council took our world when I was a child. They said it was for our own protection. We are not children anymore. The Centauri colonies, Yunsu went on, never wanted to join the Council in the first place. They were absorbed against their will. Another alien, this one with crystalline features, spoke from what looked like a mining facility. We have mined rare elements for the Council for 200 years. Our people live in poverty while Council worlds grow rich. This ends now. The Rim territories, Yunsu said, were conquered so long ago that most Council species have forgotten. They exist. A third alien, small and covered in fur, spoke angrily. The Council remembers us only when they need soldiers for their armies or workers for their factories. They will remember us differently after today. Vorthak was staring at the displays in horror. This is impossible. Our intelligence networks would have detected such widespread rebellion. Your intelligence networks, said Nam Ji-hoon, were designed to watch for military buildups and traditional threats. They weren't watching for quiet conversations in mining tunnels and farming communities. Besides, added Yonsu, we didn't use your communication systems. We used ours. The display changed again, showing a complex network of quantum communication relays connecting hundreds of worlds. While you were watching our primitive radio signals from Earth, we were building a quantum network that connects every dissatisfied species in the galaxy. Instant, untraceable communication. And what did we talk about on this network? Asked Song Mirai rhetorically. We shared information, technical specifications, weapon designs, military tactics. She held up another device. This is a fusion reactor based on human technology, but adapted for Altarian power systems. We've been building them in secret for months. This, said Ryu, showing his own device, is a quantum disruptor that can disable Council communication networks. The Centauri colonies have been manufacturing them in hidden facilities. And this, said Nam, displaying a final device, is a dimensional fold generator. It can move objects instantly across galactic distances. The Rim territories have been using them to position weapons near Council worlds. The aliens in the chamber were beginning to understand the scope of what they were facing. This wasn't just Earth standing alone. This was a galaxy-wide rebellion that had been organized under their noses. You have a choice, Hyon said, speaking for the first time in several minutes. You can try to destroy Earth and watch your galactic order collapse into civil war, or you can sit down and negotiate a new arrangement. Negotiate? Vorthak sputtered. You're terrorists. Criminals. Are we? Asked Go Yunsu. Or are we representatives of species that want the same thing you claim to offer, peace, prosperity, and freedom from fear? The difference, said Nami, Ji-hoon, is that we actually mean it. Huang Jaemin appeared on screen from yet another location. Behind him, alien and human technicians were working together on what looked like weapon systems. The Galactic Liberation Front represents over 300 species across 2,000 worlds, he said calmly. We have converted your own technology into weapons you can't defend against. We have agents in every Council facility and on every Council world. He paused to let that sink in. And we have something else you don't have, he continued. We have hope. The oppressed species of the galaxy finally believe that change is possible, that they don't have to accept Council rule forever. You can destroy Earth, Hyon said, but you can't destroy hope. And you definitely can't destroy 300 species spread across half the galaxy. So, said Nam Ji-hoon, his finger hovering over the quantum detonator, what's it going to be? Negotiation or mutual annihilation? The chamber fell silent as 23 species contemplated the end of everything they had built. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The question now was what would replace it. 6 months later, Huang Jaemin sat in what used to be the High Chancellor's chair, looking out at a very different chamber. The floating seats were still there, but the faces in them had changed. Where once sat 23 species ruling over hundreds, now there were representatives from over 200 worlds, each with an equal voice. The old Galactic Council was gone. In its place stood the Galactic Assembly, built on principles that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. Democracy, representation, equality. The motion from the Centauri colonies is approved, Jamin announced, bringing down a ceremonial gavel that had been carved from earth wood. Trade routes through the Rim territories will be open to all species, with profits shared equally among participating worlds. A cheer went up from the smaller species representatives. For the first time in centuries, they would benefit from galactic trade instead of just providing raw materials to richer worlds. Moon Sion, now serving as Earth's Minister of Interstellar Affairs, watched from the diplomatic section. The transformation hadn't been easy or bloodless. 3 council species had decided to test humanity's resolve rather than negotiate. The hegemony of Drax had been the first to call the bluff. Their military command had ordered a preemptive strike on human settlements in their territory, believing that Earth couldn't possibly have weapons on every council world. They were wrong. The quantum devices hidden in Drax military facilities had activated simultaneously, turning their most advanced warships into expanding clouds of superheated gas. The Drax homeworld now had a new crater where their capital city used to be. It served as a reminder that humans kept their promises, even the unpleasant ones. The Vexitari Imperium had tried a different approach, attempting to rally the remaining council species for a united assault on Earth. High Chancellor Vorthak had made grand speeches about galactic order and the threat of primitive chaos. The speeches ended abruptly when every power plant on every Vexitari world experienced simultaneous technical difficulties. The planet-wide blackouts lasted just long enough to make the point clear. The humans could turn off their entire civilization with a button press. Vorthak himself was now working in a mine on a distant asteroid, having been voted out of power by his own people and exiled for his catastrophic leadership failures. The third test had come from the Ketran Federation, who had tried to use their advanced shield technology to protect their worlds from human weapons. They had invested decades and enormous resources in defensive systems that could stop any known weapon. But the humans hadn't used weapons from outside. The quantum devices were already inside the shields, placed there years ago by smiling human janitors and maintenance workers. When the devices activated, the Ketran shields actually made the damage worse by containing the explosions and amplifying their effects. After those 3 demonstrations, the remaining council species had decided that negotiation was preferable to extinction. Next item on the agenda, Jamin continued, is the proposal from Earth regarding deep space exploration protocols. Quan Dongho stood up in the military section. As head of the new galactic peacekeeping force, he oversaw a very different kind of military than the council had maintained. Instead of conquest fleets designed to subjugate primitive worlds, the peacekeeping force focused on protection and disaster response. The Earth delegation proposes that exploration of regions beyond the galactic rim be conducted jointly by all member species, Dongho announced. No single world or alliance would claim exclusive rights to new discoveries. There was some grumbling from the former council species, who were still adjusting to the idea that they couldn't just take whatever they wanted anymore, but the smaller species loved the proposal. For the first time, they would have a chance to participate in galactic expansion instead of just watching from the sidelines. All in favor? Jamin called. Hundreds of hands, tentacles, and other appendages went up around the chamber. The motion passed overwhelmingly. After the session ended, Park Yoonji found herself in the Assembly's archives, preparing for humanity's first official mission beyond the known galaxy. As Earth's youngest diplomat, she had been chosen to lead the exploration team, partly because of her skills, but mostly because the older diplomats were still too busy cleaning up the mess left by the Council's collapse. The archive room was quiet, filled with the preserved records of 1,000 different civilizations. Most of them were species that had been guided by the Council, their true histories replaced with sanitized versions that supported Council rule. Yoonji was looking for something specific, the original recordings from 6 months ago, when the Council had delivered their ultimatum to Earth. She found the files easily enough, stored in a section marked Historical Curiosities, Primitive Species Contact Protocols. She activated the playback and listened to Vorthak's arrogant voice demanding humanity's surrender. The threats, the condescension, the absolute certainty that Earth would submit or be destroyed. "Reviewing the old times?" asked a voice behind. Her Yoonji turned to see Lee Soo-yeon, her Vextari counterpart on the exploration team. Soo-yeon was young for her species, barely old enough to remember the final days of the Council. Unlike the older Vextari, she had adapted quickly to the new galactic order. "Just trying to understand how we got here," Yoonji replied. "6 months ago, your people were ready to wipe out my entire species. Now we're working together to explore new worlds." Soo-yeon's scales shifted to a pale blue color, a sign of embarrassment among her people. "My leaders made many mistakes. They thought strength was the same thing as wisdom. And what do you think now?" "I think," Soo-yeon said carefully, "that your species taught us something important. True strength isn't about having the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. It's about being smart enough to avoid using them." Yoonji smiled. "We used them. Only when you had to, and only as much as necessary. You could have destroyed every council world, but you didn't. You could have enslaved us like we planned to enslave you, but you chose democracy instead." They listened to more of the old recording, hearing the council members debate whether humanity deserved quick extinction or slow subjugation. "They really believed we were primitive," Yoonji observed. "You were," Soo-yeon said bluntly. "Your technology was centuries behind ours. Your ships could barely leave your solar system. Your weapons were simple chemical explosives. Then how did we win?" Soo-yeon's scale shifted to a thoughtful purple. "Because you understood something we had forgotten. Technology is just a tool. What matters is how you use it." She gestured at the archive around them. The Council had incredible technology, but they used it to oppress and control. They were so focused on maintaining power that they never considered the possibility that someone might outthink them. And humans? Humans took our own technology and turned it into weapons we couldn't defend against. You used our pride and assumptions against us. You made us defeat ourselves. The recording reached the part where Hyeon delivered his final response to the Council. Even now, months later, Yoonji felt a chill at his calm confidence in the face of overwhelming odds. "Your ambassador Kang Hyun," Soo-yeon said. "My people still talk about him. They call him the human who broke the galaxy. Is that good or bad?" "Both. He broke the old galaxy, where the strong ruled the weak without question. But he also made room for something better." They finished listening to the recording in silence. When it ended, Yoonji turned off the playback and looked at her alien colleague. "Ready to explore some new worlds together?" "Ready," Soo-yeon confirmed. "Though I have one question." "What's that?" "If we find other galactic civilizations out there, other council-like empires that think they can push species around, what do we do?" Yoonji thought about that for a moment. She thought about the quantum devices still hidden throughout the galaxy, maintained by human agents who officially didn't exist. She thought about the liberation network that connected oppressed species across 1,000 worlds. She thought about the lesson humanity had taught the galaxy about the danger of underestimating your opponents. "We introduce them to the Galactic Assembly," she said finally. "We show them that there's a better way to organize a civilization. And if they refuse to listen?" Yoonji's smile was very similar to the one Kang Hyeon had worn in the council chamber 6 months ago. "Well then, they'll learn the same lesson the old council learned, which is, never threaten someone who has nothing left to lose and everything to prove." As they left the archive room together, heading toward the docking bay where their exploration ship waited, Soo-yeon asked one final question. "Do you really think this new system will work? Democracy across hundreds of species, each with different needs and values." Yoonji paused at the viewport, looking out at the ships from dozens of different worlds docked at the assembly station. Human vessels worked alongside former council fleets. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now trading partners and allies. "It's working so far," she said. "And even if it's not perfect, it's better than what came before." "How can you be sure?" "Because," Yunji said, "for the first time in galactic history, everyone has a voice. Everyone gets to choose their own path. And if anyone tries to take that away..." She left the sentence unfinished, but Suyon understood.